Hey there, TNA fan! Welcome back to the impzonepod podcast. We're here again to talk about TNA wrestling shenanigans, and today, I want to talk about the TNA on AMC difference. Okay, so we've been here on AMC for a couple weeks now. I do think that there is a bit of difference, obviously. And of course, there is going to be a lot more difference as we go along, I think, as well. But the thing is, I think I want to hear what you guys have to say or what you guys want to know about like this. Maybe we have to wait a few more weeks, a few more months even for this to be like you can really like maybe like a full year, I don't know, but like you guys better let me know how long you want me to like wait to sort of compare the two more so because I do want to compare like, because again, like, maybe you say, well, are you really comparing because, like, you're talking about where we're at now versus where we were at before? And of course, there's so many, like, huge differences between, like, where we were and where we are that, you can't really quantify that. But I'm not talking about viewership. I'm not talking about like attendances, but like I think those things are certainly important and they deserve to be like highlighted and mentioned and worked with and all of that sort of stuff. But again, I feel like not purely just based on stories and sometimes things like I say with Leon and the visa issues and that like that's something that's outside of TNA's hands, but basically what are they doing to create like interest and intrigue in the show? Like who are the guys and gals that like, and maybe the like my perspective needs to be like a little bit like washed out a little bit because like again like my perspective on some of the people that are like, hey, like I wouldn't be that interested in seeing these people is like, well, that wouldn't be the norm of most people's like viewership or wanting to view a show or whatever else it is. But for me, that's like, oh, well, I still know that this is what people kind of want to see because this is who the audience in the crowd reacts to and who, people sort of talk about when they talk about TNA, especially right now. But yeah, like this is what I wanted to know about with you guys. So yeah, I really want to know, like, should I compare the two? Yeah, where do you think I should sort of compare things? Like, because obviously, like we could talk about the viewership and the attendances and things like that, as I said, but like obviously it's a lot more than what it was. We were getting like 90 something K viewers, maybe. I think like we did some big numbers doing during the pandemic, like 200K or so. Um, so, like, but now we're doing like between like I think 170, 175K or so on average, which is like not a huge amount more, but it is a fair bit more again, still. Like it's like 80 something K more, which is almost double the audience. Which we thought, well, maybe we'll get 3 times the audience, or even maybe a little bit more than that. But like again, like I do think that the the intrigue needs to be there, and like again where it's like having people who are like Steve Macklin and the Iconics or the Inspirational whoever leave, it's like, well, that's diminished a bit, like, and I understand you can't keep everyone, but the thing is you need, like, especially for this year, like you needed to keep more people than not keep them to an extent, especially the bigger names to an extent. And it's real tough when you have to try to outbid WWE or AEW or both. Um, but again, like I feel like you need to like I don't know where they've put like, obviously I don't think that they're using all the money right here, right now, like today and then this week. But where are they putting some of this money? Like, you've got to start saying, no, we can't just, like I said this before, I can't even remember where I said it, but like, I said, like, you can't just sit on money. You can't just sit there with all this money and say, oh, well, you know, like, you need to say, okay, what is our budget for touring, for whatever, whatever, all that stuff. Okay, cool, right, at least for this year or whatever it is. So this is our budget for the year for touring. Okay, cool, right. That's how much money, you know, here's how much money is left over for whatever we want. And maybe we want to be a bit frugal with that. Okay, that's great, but we really need to make a big splash year one. So, like, we need to, you know, invest in some things that will get us more eyes on the prize, so to speak. But yeah, I do want to compare the not just the storytelling in the product, but like the level of like star power, I guess, because again, like it can be very subjective as well. But I do think that if you have it is very similar. You can sort of compare like Santana to Hendry very well because it's two big, like, young baby faces effectively running the company for a few months or whatever it is at the start of the year. And now it's like, okay, cool. When are they going to drop that belt? Who's it going to be to? What obstacles are they going to have to overcome? All that sort of thing. It's a lot different now than when it was like last year as well. Like, you're giving a lot more people these opportunities to effectively cash in an opportunity at, quote, any time, so to speak. Whereas before you've had like one of those opportunities maybe, and now it's like you have two of those opportunities. That's never really been, like, I would say, yes, you can have that saying, oh, well, people could have challenged, you know, Feast of Fire or whatever, challenge for the X Division or challenge for the whatever tag teams or challenge this or challenge that. Yeah, sure, but like I'm only going to be talking about the world title picture here, guys. Come on, like, you know, like, I'm not going to be talking about like the mid card stuff or whatever. And I hate to lump like the tag teams and whatever else into the mid card division, but that's where people typically put that sort of style of stuff, no matter how big or whatever things are. It's like, well, you're in the mid card or whatever, or even maybe if you're lucky, you're in the upper mid card. You know, like, you know, even if you're a semi-main event team, or semi-main event, like, and the saying somebody's a semi-main event or main event level talent or whatever doesn't mean that they're in the main event. Like, that just means like, or whatever. It just means that they have got an over with the crowd. And now that they're over with the crowd, you can basically put them in any position. Like, and that they will, you know, carry that division forward into the future and whatnot. So again, you know, this is where we're at, you know. How is this thing going to keep going? And like a lot of people have tried without success in some ways to be the rudders of TNA, so to speak. Like, you know, and it's like, well, what more can they do? Or, you know, like, you know, you know, and it is tough because, again, you need more rudders. You just need more people that are, you know, not to say that they're part of the furniture and just get forgotten about or whatever else it is, because I do think some of those people need to be, like, you know, not just front and center completely, but they still need to be, like, important. I mean, look at the way The Undertaker was. Like, after a decade of being there, everyone was like, oh, cool, he's had a, you know, great run, probably will retire soon. He didn't retire for another, like, decade and a bit or whatever it was, I don't think, or even more. Like, and maybe in there somewhere he should have said, oh yes, time to give it up properly or whatever. In some of the matches he perhaps agreed to, like the opponents that he got, what can you do? But yeah, like it is what it is. So again, and sometimes it's injuries, sometimes it's this, sometimes it's that, or whatever it is. But again, saying that this is where we're at, this is what we're going to do, whatever, is saying, hey, that's what we've got to look at. Like, because like no one has had the longevity, I think, of like guys like Chris Jericho or The Undertaker or some of these like guys. But then again, like Jericho, he would go away for a while or whatever. Well, it's like, not to say that The Undertaker never went away, but like, Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth, he was there in WWE for like 10 years, a decade or something like that. Like straight. Like it was crazy how long he was there doing his shtick, so to speak. And you look at like guys in TNA, it's like, you don't always have those guys like that are there, that are part of the furniture, so to speak, so much. Like you don't get your WWE lifers, so to speak, in TNA so much, do you? Like back in the day, maybe you did, or to an extent, maybe you did, where AJ Styles was with the company and it felt like he'd be there forever or whatever, basically forever. And Abyss, basically, it felt like he'd be there forever, same sort of deal. Like a lot of people started to feel like, oh man, this guy's been here basically forever, and they're going to be here basically forever, because, like, where else would they go? Obviously, at this point, if WWE was interested, they'd have called or whatever. And of course, there were other extenuating circumstances that did make some of that, change or whatever else it was. But again, not to say that you can't have people come in and out either, but like, again, you need at least like your core guys. Like you need to keep your core guys, I think. Yeah. So, and hopefully like there is something coming, or there's more coming, or there's more stuff on the way, or you're going to do more stuff with some of the people that you've got. Because again, it is very much like, you can say justifiably, yes, there are still times in last year where it's like, man, some of these guys don't get the time that they should, or some of these people, gals or whatever, they don't get the time that they should, and whatnot. And it's like a very homogenous sort of thing. Same for now. It's like very homogenous, like, I don't know. I don't think I ever sort of said this anywhere else, but I meant to say it so many times. I'm very intrigued with the Righteous' story with the Hardys. It is such an interesting story that they're telling in this regard. It's like, they're basically telling like this, childhood idol kind of story. When you meet your idols type thing. Like the things that can kind of like go wrong, I guess, or be misinterpreted or whatever else it is. That sort of thing. That's kind of like, and just having taken your fandom too far or whatever else it is, or perceptionally, taken things too far, but, that's the sort of thing. Like, I'm very interested in it. Like, so I asked the question, what are you going to do with it? But then my thing would be, like, it has so much nuance and whatnot, but in some ways it needs to be boiled down a little bit more and distilled a little bit more into a more like very generic sort of thing. I don't want it to lose too much, but I want it to be like, I want there to be more clear motivation. You know what I mean? Like, what is the Righteous' actual goal? What is their actual motivation? Are they actually like, this is the thing, like, traditionally, like when you have a tag team or when you have somebody in these roles, it's like, okay, cool, you want the tag team titles. okay, you want the mid-card title, or you want some other variant of a title, or you want the world title. You want to build and grow yourself to the audience and say, hey, this is an important person and they're going to represent us. But yeah, like, again, that's where it's like the righteous don't, like, maybe at some point, like I said this before, they should say, hey, we do want those titles, or whatever it is, but we're going to wait until, somebody beats the Hardys or something, and then we're going to try to beat that person or that team or whatever it is, because we're never going to try to beat the Hardys or whatever. We're never going to try to fight the Hardys again or whatever. Something like that, where it's like, at least you're like, and it's maybe not to do with the story itself, but I'm just saying, like, their motivations or whatever. They like, people don't understand these very abstract, like, and sometimes that's the point, like, sort of things. But at least if you have the understanding that, okay, they're not gonna, stab the Hardys in the back, and they're not gonna do anything against the Hardys, really, or that's sort of the idea. But they are here for gold. They are looking to win. They aren't just here to be like, we're here. Like, that's the problem. It's like, people, if you're too nebulous and people don't understand what your kind of goal is, it starts becoming like, well, what are you doing here then? Like, type thing. Like, if you don't want the gold, then why are you here? Type thing. Like, you must want the gold, so that needs to be sort of a clear, like, statement somewhere made to say, yes, we do want those belts, we do want that gold or whatever else it is, we do want to be the tag team, here and be the best, but we do not want to face the Hardys, we do not want to face our idols, we do not want to hurt them, we want to, make them the greatest. We want to, do whatever it is that they want to do with them. And that plan needs to be like, you can't tell everyone everything, I guess. But again, like, it needs to be like, okay, what does that mean? Make the Hardys great again. Like make it like, that's an unfortunate slogan now, but like make it a slogan like that, or make the Hardys, I don't know, like they said, like, ascending and stuff like that. This is what I mean. I don't understand it. And I'm very, like, I think I'm pretty smart. And I think you guys are pretty smart. But, like, it's too ambiguous. It's too unclear. And, like, again, like, I don't mind that it be a little bit unclear, but it's just too unclear. Like, it doesn't sound like they actually want to do anything. Or it doesn't sound like they know what they're talking about in some regards. Or it sounds like they're almost, I don't know, not causing pity, I guess. I don't know. What would you say? But, like, somewhat causing pity onto them for being not as great as what they once were, or almost kind of like they're become, like, somewhat blinded by their own fame or whatever, that sort of thing, where it's like they aren't as good as what they think they are, or what they say they are, or whatever. They are the greatest of all time, or whatever else it is, but now they aren't as great as what they once were, and they're holding on by a thread, but they're still, like, saying we're the greatest, or we're not, it isn't we're the greatest or whatever in the past tense. We are the greatest. You're still trying to cling to that. That's not the truth. And they're trying to be like, we want you to really be the greatest right now, not, be a shadow of the greatest sort of thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, but anyway, all these little things and whatnot that you're trying to do, and that you're going along with, and that you've got working for you right now, there's a lot of similar stuff in some ways, but there's also a lot of, differing factors, I guess. Like, You know what I mean? So I want to look at it in a parallel sense. So let me know, like, not week to week, literally week to week or minute to minute, but like, segmentally, I guess, more so. Maybe like not a full on like review per se, but like comparing. Was these stories or these builds to these shows better than the shows last year? Or what is it about the same? Is it worse? Or are the segments now better? Because like they've had some really good TVs and had some really good things going on in some of the more recent TVs and whatnot. And I think some of the stuff was needed to be done that was necessary. But again, like it's one of those things of saying that's very subjective to an extent. But like I say, what is on TV, what is advertised, what is, like not to say selling, but like what is, getting over with the crowd, whatever. So I think the crowd is like, I don't know whether the crowd cares too much about nuance sometimes. I think like when people get home or when people, you know, walk away from the arenas and start talking about the shows or whatever is when they start analyzing some of these shows and actually going, you know what? Those guys were actually pretty cool out there, but when they go back to the arenas or whatever else it is, they sort of default back to fan mode sometimes, I think, in some ways. That, or it's just people, hey, want to enjoy the show and they know the game in some ways and they want to be respectful or whatever else it is. So they allow themselves to be like, especially when it's like, hey, they only come to town once every now and again or whatever else it is. So it's like, well, this is not just like a once in a lifetime, literally, but it's sort of like once in a lifetime sort of like thing to be like, oh, okay, I get to go and see TNA down the road from where I live, like, so this is my chance. I better buy some tickets or I better start saving some money on the side or, whatever it is to go and, do that. And see this show because, like, when am I going to get another chance to see it? When am I going to get another chance to see the Hardys or, Santana, like, live in person, not like, and do maybe a meet and greet, do a signing, do whatever it is or whatnot. That's the difference of saying, hey, I get to go there live, not just to be like, oh, yeah, I can see them on TV or whatever else it is. I can go and make my signs, or I can go get, my poster signed, or I can go do something or whatever it is, or go get a photo op or whatever it is. All these things, or share stories, or, ask questions and interact with these guys that have, been part of like my childhood or part of my, wrestling fandom growing up in wrestling or whatever else it is. So again, mad respect to those guys and everything that they do, because again, like the fans turn out for them again every single time. So again, like, despite my feelings about like how well that they perform, in the ring, like they're great on the mic, they're great with the storytelling and the facials and stuff like that. But just like wrestling, like doing stunts, but yeah, like wrestling, I guess they're not as bad, but like their athleticism now leaves a lot to be desired from like in like, I think, when was the Broken Universe started, like 10 years ago, roughly, something like that. I can't remember. But yeah, like, and even then they were starting to lose like a lot of their ability to perform physically. And they were saying, hey, let's, do something else to differentiate ourselves and to sort of work a little bit slower and work a little bit easier and not do so much and save those big things, more so, because again, we just can't do, all that stuff, all night long, like we used to. And that's fair enough again, but like again, if you just can't do things, if you can't like work with people, if you can't make yourselves look good, then it's like, well, yes, your opponents are meant to make you look good, but you can only do so much. But anyway, either way, I will get off this high horse, so to speak. But yeah, anyway, guys, I hope you have enjoyed it, because I know you guys are pretty smart and pretty knowledgeable, but I do want to hear what you guys have to say as well in this one about like whether I should cover like a comparison or whatever else it is between the like TNA, this year versus TNA last year or whatever else it is on AMC versus Access. Has the creative got better? Has the booking gotten better? Has it all gotten better? Is it about the same? So yeah, like let me know. I want to do stuff for you guys. Even even though I said, well, I might not do anything more. I'm too obsessed. Like I think like again, I didn't really want to go too deep into this and I haven't really said anything about it, but and I'm still rambling on, but like I want to say this very importantly that a lot of the reason why I was saying, hey, I'm not going to do anything was because I felt like we were being silenced in many other ways, not in wrestling perhaps, but they were sort of a lot of silencing going on, a lot of like Twitter, well, not Twitter, but like TikTok's been taken over recently, and there's been a lot of, hushing of a lot of things going on there with a lot of the issues and whatnot. So again, I've just felt like there's this movement now to try to keep people quiet about things. The thing is, like, yes, they probably wouldn't like touch us here for talking about wrestling, but here I wanted to move on and to try to protect my freedoms and protect whatever, and get more involved in the community and whatnot, just to try to make sure, hey, let's make some positive change, or let's keep positive communications open, and try to do something bigger and whatnot. But yeah, I think also, like, if I drop the ball on some of these things that I love to talk about, that's also silencing me in another way, where it's like, man, now I feel like I can't talk about the things that I want to talk about, because I've got to talk about the things that I've sort of got to talk about, or whatever else it is. So yeah, I still want to talk about these things because I love talking about them, and I just need to talk about them sometimes. And that's why I appreciate this channel, because it's like, I don't care if I get 1 view or 0 views on a video. It's just something for me to be like, hey, these are my opinions. If you like them, cool. If you don't like my opinions or disagree or whatever, that's fine. We can have disagreements and we can agree to disagree or whatever else it is. But again, like, and it's all like, some things are subjective, but like, again, yeah, I don't want to be silenced in any form, I guess, is the main point that I'm driving away here at. So I don't think I will. I thought I would stop or slow down or whatever, but the thing is, I just like it too much. I need it too much. I need to talk about it. And I just know more about this stuff, or I just feel like I can offer my opinion more easily about this stuff because it's actually something I more know about, rather than being like something that I go, yeah, I kind of know stuff about it, but I'm not really in that position. I'm in a position of saying, yes, that sounds like a good idea, or this sounds like a good idea, or let's work for that, or let's find a way to find the qualifications or the things that would require for that thing, or whatever else it is. But again, I do think sometimes, like, having 2 people, sometimes when you're like running something, is like, you balance each other out, like, sort of thing. If I'm too far going one way or getting too much power in the say of something, when somebody else is sort of in co-power with me, it's like, well, they can rein me back in unless, like, there's that under the table shenanigans or whatever it is. But again, like, there should be checks and balances for things like that, I think. So yeah, a lot of the stuff that I want to do now is focusing in on some of that other stuff, certainly, but I don't want to not do this sort of stuff because I'm, as I said, just love it too much, can't help myself. So yeah, I hope you guys will indulge me in letting me post these things. And yeah, if you watch, you watch. If you don't, you don't. I don't really mind. It's all cool with me, man. I'm too happy just to be like, talking about this stuff and having a place to sort of put it, per se, I guess. And yeah, just not have to be silent about the things that I have some sort of passion for. I obviously have passions for other things, but I just have a passion for wrestling. I can't help myself. So, but still, anyway, guys, yeah, that is it for this one. Hope you have enjoyed one way or the other, and hope you join me again in another one.